From $100,000 semi-trucks and exotic pets to mansions worth millions of dollars, you'll never believe what some NFL players spend their money on. Starting with Chad Okocinko once blew a ton of money on a semi-truck. Back in 2010, Okocinko bought a $100,000 semi-truck. Keep in mind, this was a lot of money back then. Still, nobody was really surprised when he pulled up to his game against the New York Jets in the truck. Did I mention that it had his name engraved on the door? He loves attention, and when he showed up in this truck, he got it. Not that anyone had the same reaction, though. He made quite an entrance in the game against the Jets, and everyone was left shocked. Chad even revealed why he got this expensive car for himself. It was a gift from him to him for his 32nd birthday. Yep, you heard that right. It was a gift for Okocinko from Okocinko. Now, this made headlines, especially because anybody with that much money would probably want something like a Ferrari, a Cadillac, or maybe a Mercedes. The super truck Chad got for himself isn't too flashy, but he seemed to be very happy with his purchase. The all-black truck wasn't just any other truck, and everyone knew this as soon as Chad pulled up to the game in it. It was completely custom, with features like a roll bar, a pickup bed, and roof-mounted air horns. That's how you know this was definitely designed by Okocinko. The semi has his personal touch to it. According to Daily Mail, this purchase cost Chad Okocinko between $100,000 and $150,000. That seems like a lot, especially because he could spend it on a grander, more luxurious vehicle. Of course, this made more sense for Chad considering his public persona. A lot of NFL players spend money on things that might seem pointless or even bizarre. Darnell Dockett once spent his money on something really bizarre too: a pet alligator. The defensive tackle of the Cardinals even took to Twitter to announce to everyone that he now has an alligator. He said that he wants to bring Nino to work, which probably isn't the best idea for the safety of his roommates. Now, I don't know how much a pet alligator costs, but I know it's definitely not your everyday pet. Now let's look at another NFL star who didn't hold back on spending those big bucks. Bryant McKinnie is known for his bar tab. Now, it's common knowledge that NFL players have a lot to spend. The financial advice they get the most is probably to spend wisely, but not many of them take it. That's what I think happened when it was revealed that the Vikings offensive lineman spent an insane amount on his car tab. Rumor has it the total was over $100,000. If you're wondering how this happened, it was during the NBA All-Star kickoff party at none other than the My House nightclub. The tab was allegedly this huge because of the 15 bottles of rare champagne. Since then, McKinney has tried to debunk these claims and said that the whole story about him spending so much has been exaggerated. If anyone is talking about NFL players spending insane amounts of money, there's no doubt that Tom Brady is on the list. He spends an insane amount on real estate. Even though TB12 doesn't look like he's the kind of guy who's a show-off, he boasts some expensive properties. Like, really expensive. He's moved around a lot his whole life, and Brady has never compromised on his homes. His most famous property is on Creek Island in Miami. It cost an insane amount, $22.5 million to be exact, to build, and Brady loved the house before he sold it 2 years ago. Tom also bought another mansion in Massachusetts with his ex-wife Giselle back in 2020. This was also worth almost $40 million when they bought it. Brady has a whole empire of multi-million-dollar properties, from everywhere to Montana, Miami, and even Brooklyn. He loves a good house, and he's not afraid to spend millions to buy it or even a couple grand each month to rent them. The craziest part about all this is that it probably barely made a dent in everyone's favorite quarterback's wallet. This next player spent a lot of money on something many people would never. Joe Namath bought an insanely expensive fur coat, and he donned it while he sat on the sidelines of a game with the rest of the Jets players. There's no doubt that he's one of the most iconic players ever in the NFL. After all, they do call him Broadway. The fur coat that he wore is insanely extravagant because the fur wasn't just any fur. It was coyote with Norwegian fox trim. him. Now, I'm not a fur coat connoisseur or anything, but that just sounds expensive. Everyone knows Namath and his iconic fur coats, whether he wore them in the 70s or in 2014. Moving on, this next NFL player's purchase might seem absurd. Vince Young bought every single seat on a plane once. Yep, that's right, every single seat. Why? Well, because Young didn't feel like sitting with anyone else on the flight. Now, that's one way to be flashy with your money. It doesn't compare to other players who are all iced out or buying every single property in sight, but it sure is a way to let everyone know you're rich and not afraid to spend money on outrageous things. While some players spend their money on crazy things, others do the same on pretty controversial things too, like Fred Smoot, who bought a Love Boat. A group of former Vikings players who bought a cruise ship and used it for orgies is said to have been led by Smoot and Lance Johnstone. There were reportedly more than 90 players and just as many prostitutes on the boat. Smoot was among the players who happened to be punished for the incident. This whole situation was wild from start to finish. Thankfully, there are a lot of players who use their money for good too, unlike Smoot. This brings me to Chris Long, who donated his whole salary. Chris Long is one of the Eagles fans' all-time favorites. Even if you're not an Eagles fan, you'll probably gain a lot of respect for this guy because he donated his entire salary for the 2017 season to charity. Everyone was just shocked because NFL players rarely ever let their money go this easily. It's so heartfelt how he shared the love across the whole country instead of just donating all the money to one charity, which nobody was expecting. While most players spend, others save. And Rob Gronkowski is known for saving the money he makes from his NFL career. You'd think the Gronk, who's notorious with Tom Brady on the field, would be the same as his friend when it comes to spending his money. That's not true at all because, as it turns out, he's saved almost all his money. Gronk himself said that he only spends his endorsement money and sets aside each year's NFL salaries. Now that he's retired, he's probably having fun spending all those years' salaries. It's also weirdly surprising to see someone who seems so goofy and reckless on the field to be so sensible in real life. Who knew? Gronk isn't the only player who saves his money instead of spending it though. Marshawn Lynch does the same. Running back Marshawn Lynch, a free agent, is one of the NFL's best players, and he has the money to prove it. According to SportTrack, he has made over $55 million just on the field. As if this wasn't enough, he has endless endorsements from places like Pepsi, Skittles, Progressive, Nike, Activision, and even Microsoft. By NFL standards, though, he's a frugal man. According to Business Insider, he's saved every bit of his money since he was drafted back in 2007. That's insane. That's for all the crazy amounts of money NFL players spend.